fix. But now the Jetta TDI has a new competitor in the compact segment. And it comes from Chevrolet?
That's right. High torque and highway fuel economy are both of these cars' biggest assets. So we're going to take you along on a 30-mile carefully planned trip, half city and half highway, to test out which one gets the best real-world fuel economy. Now, there really isn't a whole lot about either of these cars to distinguish the fact that they use diesel engines, except for the noise that they make at idle and the badges that they wear on the outside. Now, General Motors wants this to feel like a German car, and funny enough, it sort of is, because the engine that it uses is actually borrowed from GM's German subsidiary. Of course, that's Opel. Mind you, it's a heavily modified version to meet US emission standards, and the 2-liter turbo diesel gets 151 horsepower and offers 264 foot-pounds of torque, although if you jam the pedal all the way to the floor, you actually get access to 280 foot-pounds for up to 10 seconds via the overboost feature. Our test car costs just about $29,000, which makes it one of the most expensive Cruzes you can buy. You only get one transmission option for that price, a 6-speed slush box, and while Chevy swears up and down that it's able to compete with the VW gearbox options, I'm a little bit skeptical. Mind you, these cars are all about fuel economy, and if the government estimates have anything to say about it, that transmission isn't going to make an awful lot of difference. Why is that? Well, this car is supposed to get 27 miles per gallon in the city, or a whopping 46 on the highway. Of course, that's exactly what we're here to test.
Luke's fully loaded Cruze diesel is quite a bit more expensive than this Jetta TDI with the navigation and premium package. Altogether, this vehicle costs $27,850, and you don't even have to spend that much just to get into a diesel Jetta. In fact, you can just spend $23,850 to get into a base Jetta diesel. I've also noticed that Luke has an easier time keeping up with traffic in that Cruze, and that's because that vehicle has more horsepower and torque. The Jetta TDI's 2-liter turbocharged diesel engine makes 140 horsepower and 236 pounds-feet of torque. In our vehicle, that motor is paired to a quick-shifting dual-clutch transmission, but you can save some money by going for a manual transmission. Now, when it comes to fuel economy, the Jetta TDI gets better fuel economy in the city at 30 miles per gallon. But it does not come near the 46 miles per gallon that the Cruze gets on the highway. At least that's what the EPA says. It rates this vehicle for 42 miles per gallon. But let's see how it does with some real-world driving numbers.
Now, like I said earlier, the Cruze is supposed to get up to 46 miles per gallon on the highway. Unfortunately, over the course of 15 miles at an average speed of 63 miles an hour, I'm finding that it only got 39.
On the other hand, the Jetta is supposed to get 42 miles per gallon on the highway, and we're seeing 47.
Now, this is a perfect time after we're coming off the highway to point out that the Cruze comes with certain safety features that you can't get in the Jetta. For example, blind spot monitoring and also rear parking assist, which helps because, let's be honest, I suck at parking.
But the Jetta is cheaper and more stylish. Plus, you've got a torque converter automatic. What year are we in?
I'll give that one to you, Sammy, but I'll take the Cruze for seat quality and comfort over the Jetta any day of the week.
On that note, why don't we see how these cars do in the city? Luke's right. The Jetta doesn't have the same safety or convenience features as the Cruze. And one thing I really wish I had in here is the Cruze's infotainment system. Volkswagen's MMI system is clunky, old, and ugly, and it just doesn't compare to MyLink. However, I really appreciate the driving dynamics of the Jetta. It steers well, and that transmission is impossible to beat. However, our specific vehicle has a really weird braking problem. The whole car starts to shudder to a stop. Now, I don't know if it's because this is a press vehicle, and most press vehicles have a pretty rough life, but I bet a brand new Jetta won't feel as rough as this. The urea treatment system in the Cruze takes up a huge part of the trunk, and that's why the Jetta has a far bigger cargo space. Now, the Cruze has better seats, and the Jetta altogether doesn't look that special. In fact, all of the hard plastics in here are already scuffing up and leaving marks. And that doesn't really give it a quality feel.
You know, Sammy's absolutely right. The 6-speed automatic in this car just doesn't stack up to modern dual-clutch gearboxes like the one that he gets to play with in the Jetta. I'm also noticing that this is the much noisier of the two, both inside the cabin and just speaking in terms of the exhaust note in general. Chevrolet went to great lengths to deaden the sound, and they did a good job, but you can still hear it quite a bit. And one of the other things you can hear is how the tires tend to squeal even in moderate speed turns. I chalk that up to the fact that Chevy also uses low rolling resistance tires, and while that's probably saving a little bit of fuel, it's also slightly disconcerting because that, combined with what boils down to sort of a vague steering feel, means that cornering feels a little bit imprecise, and I'm just not in love with the feeling you have going through corners because you're not really sure how much traction you have. Don't get me wrong, I don't mean to get down on the Cruze completely. It certainly has advantages of its own. For example, the engine has more torque, and in all cases, that's going to make it feel more powerful. Also, the brake feel is much better. You get an instant response when you touch the pedal, and as you progressively push, you feel the car slowing down, which is just not true of the Jetta's brakes, at least in this case.
After our city driving loop, the Jetta TDI returned 34 miles per gallon. How about you, Luke?
Well, I got 31 miles per gallon, which means that this car averaged 35, which is better than the EPA, and if I'm not mistaken, you also beat those averages.
Yeah, with 40 miles per gallon. That means no matter how you drive these cars and where you drive these cars, you're going to get excellent fuel economy.
In my mind, that boils down to one thing. You could choose the Cruze and pay a little bit more, but you get more safety tech. On the other hand, if slightly higher fuel economy and a lower price are more appealing, you're better off going with the Jetta.